Charlemagne. You know, the name itself just sounds legendary, doesn't it? Charles the Great. But he was so much more than just a name in a history book. Think of him as an architect, a guy who looked at the broken pieces of an old empire and drew up a new blueprint for something we now call Europe.
So you've probably heard this incredible title he's been given, the Father of Europe. But what does that even mean? I mean, really, who was the man who could possibly earn a nickname like that? That's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
To really get Charlemagne, you have to picture the world he was born into. The Roman Empire, that huge unifying force, was long gone. And in its place, well, it was chaos. Just a messy patchwork of little kingdoms all fighting each other. It was a continent in pieces, a total mess. So how do you fix all that? Where do you even begin to try and unify a continent that's completely fractured? Well, for Charlemagne, the answer was pretty simple. With a sword. Before he could be a builder, he had to be a warrior. And his rise to the top, it happened fast. I mean, really fast. He started out sharing the kingdom with his brother Carloman, but then, just 3 years in, Carloman dies unexpectedly. And Charlemagne, he doesn't miss a beat. At just 23 years old, he swoops in, takes over his brother's lands, and poof, he's the one and only king of the Franks. And once he had that power, man, did he use it. His entire reign was pretty much a state of constant war. I mean, look at this timeline. It's just relentless. He marches into Italy, he fights a war that lasts for decades up north, he takes over Bavaria, he pushes down into Spain. The man was literally redrawing the map of Europe by force. But of all those campaigns, the Saxon Wars, they were something else. This wasn't just a quick battle. We're talking about a 30-year slog, a brutal, bloody conflict to crush a group of people who just refused to bow down. This is where you really see the ruthless side of his empire building.
Think about this number for a second. 4,500. What is that? Well, it's the number of Saxon prisoners who were supposedly executed at the massacre of Verdun in a single day. It was an act of pure terror designed to break their will to fight once and for all.
Okay, so he's conquering all this land, right? But it wasn't just about grabbing territory. It was all building towards something much, much bigger. He needed a symbol, an idea that could hold it all together. He needed a title that meant more than just king. This was the keystone, the single most important moment of his entire reign.
And the setting for this big moment, you couldn't write it better. We're in Rome, the old center of the world. It's Christmas Day, the holiest day of the year, and the year is 800. I mean, talk about setting the stage.
So what kicked all this off? A crisis, of course. Pope Leo III was in major trouble. His enemies in Rome literally attacked him in the street. So where does he go for help? He runs straight to the most powerful man in Europe, Charlemagne. And Charlemagne, well, he marches his army to Rome and puts the Pope back in charge. And here's where it all goes down. Charlemagne is in St. Peter's Basilica, kneeling down to pray, and suddenly the Pope pulls out a crown and places it right on his head. Now, some stories say Charlemagne had no idea this was coming, but others think it was all planned out. Either way, what's done is done. And that crown came with a brand new, seriously powerful title, Imperator Romanorum, Emperor of the Romans. This was a huge deal. He wasn't just king of the Franks anymore. This was a direct claim to the legacy of the Roman Empire itself.
And let me put this into perspective for you. For more than 300 years, 3 centuries, there hadn't been an emperor in Western Europe. The title was basically extinct. Charlemagne just brought it back from the dead.
But okay, building an empire isn't just about winning battles and wearing a fancy crown, right? You have to actually run the thing. If you're the architect, you can't just build the walls. You have to design the inside too. And Charlemagne absolutely got that. And the scope of what he tried to do next is just mind-boggling. This wasn't just about a few new rules. It was a top-to-bottom reboot of his entire society. Law, money, education, religion, you name it. And he had a clear blueprint for this cultural project. Step 1, get the smartest people you can find and bring them all to your capital. Step 2, start building schools. Step 3, and this is a real game changer, create a new standardized script that's way easier to read and write. And step 4, pay people to copy all the old books from Greece and Rome before they crumble into dust. So why should you care about this? Well, this whole revival is the reason a ton of ancient knowledge survived at all. And that new script he championed, Carolingian minuscule? Take a look at the lowercase letters you're typing with every single day. Yep, those are its direct descendants. You are literally using Charlemagne's legacy every time you text someone. So the big question is, after Charlemagne the Great architect was gone, did his building last? What actually happened to this huge empire he built? Well, the honest answer? It fell apart. Pretty quickly, too. The unity he held together through his sheer force of will just couldn't last without him. Once he was gone, his 3 grandsons started a massive civil war fighting over their inheritance.
And they eventually signed this thing, the Treaty of Verdun, to split it all up. And if you look at how they divided the map, it's absolutely wild. Because what you're seeing are the very first drafts of modern France and Germany. The great unified empire is gone, but the pieces it shattered into, well, they look pretty familiar, don't they? And that brings us right back to the beginning, to that idea of him as an architect. The building itself, the unified political empire, it didn't stand, it collapsed. But the blueprint, the ideas, the shared culture, the preserved knowledge, the very idea of Europe, that survived. That became the foundation for everything that came next. So in the end, who was he? Was he this visionary architect who brought order out of chaos? Or was he a brutal warlord who built his empire with blood and ire? The crazy thing is, he was both. And it's that contradiction, the builder and the destroyer, the scholar and the soldier, that makes his legacy so incredibly vast and so endlessly fascinating.